I want to tell you a story about a real estate investor who I'm going to call James. I had the opportunity to work with James a few years ago directly, and James was in his late 50s and he was very anxious because he was worried that the time had run out, that he was too late to begin investing in real estate. He'd had some personal setbacks, some things had happened, he had some personal debt to pay off, his savings goals weren't where they needed to be, and he'd been watching all these videos and podcasts and things that showed everyone else seeming to be so successful at much earlier ages, and he was just stressed about this. So I want to tell you in this video the conversations we had, some of the struggles that we went through together to help James put a plan together, some of the mental obstacles and real obstacles he had to overcome to realize that it wasn't too late to invest in real estate. We're getting started right now. Welcome to Coach Carson TV. My name is Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach, and this is a channel all about investing in real estate, achieving financial independence, and doing more of what matters. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything. And if you like this topic, I would appreciate you hitting the like button so we can share it with more people on YouTube. So as I already told you earlier, James was in this mindset of it's too late, time is working against me, what do I do now? So in some of our first conversations, it was really just about getting inside James's head and thinking about the attitude of how he was going to attack this problem. We've all been there. We all get in these mindsets where just things seem really bad and we feel defeated, and what do we do next? And there's actually a prayer. Now, whether you're religious or not, this is a really helpful prayer that I've known for years and love, called the Serenity Prayer. If you remember that, it says, God, grant me the wisdom to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So in so many words, James and I had that conversation about, what are the things we can't change? We can't change your age. Of course, it would have been great if you started earlier and had more success earlier. Nobody's denying that. That's real. But the fact is, it is what your age is what it is. We have to deal with that. And let's look forward. Let's look at what your alternatives are. You were attracted to real estate investing for a reason, and I actually thought it was a good reason. He is investing later in life. He's right here with his savings. He wants to be up here. Now, what are your alternatives? You could go invest in the stock market. You can invest in CDs. You can invest in bonds. There are all sorts of other alternatives. The problem with some of those, which are viable alternatives, is they're very passive, and success is going to depend on basically what happens in the market. Real estate investing has its pluses and minuses, but the benefit for James at this point was he could actually affect the success of his investment. That's something he could control. And that was something to be optimistic about, to be positive about. That despite all the setbacks he had going in the past, going forward, he could entrepreneurially affect his success. It was a type of investment, real estate, where he could help with the negotiations. He could even do some work if he wanted to. I'm not a handyman type person, but James could do that. He could also build networking and relationships with people. He could go out and he could do that. He could go to the meetings. He could do these things. He could study things. He could read books, watch YouTube videos. So isn't that a little bit more empowering to think, this is an investment vehicle that I can have some effect on, I can control. I can't control the age, I can control this. So that was the first part of the conversation that James and I had to think about, to discuss, to reframe his situation where it was in the first place. The second thing James and I worked on was making a very simple financial goal. Now, James had some other alternatives. He was gonna eventually get a little bit of Social Security income. So that was one piece of the puzzle of how he's gonna pay for his lifestyle for hopefully a long and full life. But how's real estate gonna help him? And so we looked at and worked it backwards, which is what I recommend. It's something I talked about in my book, Retire Early with Real Estate, is think about what's the top of the mountain? What do I wanna accomplish? And we looked at it from an income standpoint. So what if he could own 3 properties, very simple, 3 rental properties. He could get them paid off eventually. We'll talk about the how a little bit. But what if he had a property that rented for $1,000 and he was able to self-manage these properties to add a little bit of value to that? And maybe he makes $600 per month from these 3 rental properties after he pays all his expenses. So 600 times 3 is about $1,800. So if you added in maybe $1,200 in Social Security income, he's got this $1,800 coming in here. That's about $3,000 a month. And if he keeps his expenses low, and if he has a couple other alternative sources, maybe a 401k with a little bit of money too, you start adding those up, and it's not as dire as he thought in that situation. Maybe he didn't earlier in life wanted a lot more money than that, but this is a simple goal that he could get his head around, and 3 properties didn't seem that intimidating. So we started with that simple goal. We made a goal to have that be free and clear, and then you start just briefly thinking about how can I make that happen. So first you got to go buy the 3 rental properties. So there's some steps to be done there. But once you buy them, the strategy might be to do something like a rental debt snowball, to take all the cash flow from those rental properties and any other money he can make from a job or anything else, like flipping houses perhaps, doing some other things on the side. Try to make as much cash flow as he can to concentrate on 1 rental property at a time to get those paid off really quickly. And maybe that's a 10-year period. So maybe by the time he's 68, 70, he could have these 3 properties paid off. So simple goal, worked it backwards, had real numbers. That was a good starting point. The next thing James and I talked about was taking that goal and breaking it up into little bitty pieces that I like to call the fundamentals of real estate investing. You can think about this like if you played basketball, you can't go win a championship or even win a game. All you can do is focus on learning how to dribble, learning how to shoot, doing your conditioning, and real estate investing is the same way. I actually had a video recently that I'll put a link to in the description below about the 7 fundamentals of real estate investing. So we worked on things like, can you find a target market? Can you find a target neighborhood and find a good solid one that'll meet your goals? Can you start putting some analysis goals together? It could be the 1% rule, could be a certain cash on cash return, but let's start with a few different numbers that you can use to analyze a good deal. Then let's also start looking at like putting your financing together, building a team. So all of these fundamentals, these are things that you would do on a day-to-day basis, a week-by-week basis. You could call this getting into the weeds of real estate investing. And it takes your mind away from some of the anxiety of, man, it's too late, haven't done this soon enough, to what do I need to do next? What's the next step? What's the next baby step? Then the next baby step, then the next. And it just takes some patience to follow that process. And that was the long and short of it, starting with the goals, getting into the process, and then having some accountability on a week-by-week basis to start doing that. Now, I'd like to say that that was the end of this story and James just did those steps until there was a happy ending. But in reality, we went a few weeks and I noticed there was something wrong. There was some apprehension. There wasn't the buy-in that I was hoping to see from James. And so we just had a heart-to-heart conversation. I said, James, what's going on here? I'm still sensing that there's a problem. And the conversation went like this. He said, Chad, I understand that this process of being patient is what works. It's worked for a lot of other people. It's worked for you, but I don't have enough time. Like, I need to get this done fast. I have the time working against me. I'm too old already. I got to get it done. And so that was the thing in his mind, and it still was. It was the original thing that was bothering him. And so it reminded me of a football metaphor. You can see my football helmet in the background. I used to play football. I love sports. And there was something in football called the 2-minute drill. So let's say you're a team that is behind in the score. You're losing the game. There's only 2 minutes left in the game. Well, this is a pretty regular occurrence. People are trying to catch up really quickly. Teams are trying to catch up. And here's the interesting thing. This is kind of like being too old, or you're started too late in life. Well, when you're behind in a football game, the temptation is to throw a Hail Mary, is what it's called, to throw the pass as long as you can, because you have 80 yards to go in only 2 minutes. That's a long way to go. How are you going to do that? And so the temptation is to go for everything. Just throw it as far as you can because you're trying to get all the way down the field. That's the equivalent of James saying, I've got to go for big things. I got to buy more properties. I got to use more leverage. I got to do something different because I have started too late. Well, the truth is, in a 2-minute drill, and if you're starting a little bit later in life, the fundamentals are still the same. In football, it's little bitty passes that they would throw towards the sidelines or towards the middle of the field, and get down and start over again. And you have an urgency, you move quickly, but the way you move down the field in football is little bitty passes, very quickly, very deliberately, very carefully, and that gets you down the field the fastest. The same way works in life and real estate investing. You've got to stick to those fundamentals. You've got to stick to that process. You can think about it like the 2-minute drill of life. You've got to do this. You've got to get down the field quickly, and there is some urgency, and you know that needs to happen. But to go for Hail Marys is going to lead to more of a disaster. You're going to throw the ball, and somebody's going to intercept it. It's going to be a turnover, and then you're all done. there's no going back from that. And having a taking a big risk and having a big failure later in life can be even harder than when you're in your 20s or 30s and you have more time to recover. So I hope James's story was helpful for you. We all have our challenges and we all have our processes that we need to follow. But if you find yourself with a similar situation, a similar mentality, I hope you'll be encouraged by James' progress and the fact that he did make some progress and did start moving forward and following some basic steps that we all have to follow if we want to make success as a real estate investor. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section below. Are you someone who's feeling stressed or anxious about starting too late, that you wished you had started earlier in life? Love to hear from you and chat with you there, or if you have any advice for other people who are facing a similar challenge. If you like this channel or like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the little bell so you don't miss anything. Be sure to look in the description below. If you want to stay in touch with me, I have a free real estate investing toolkit in my newsletter where every week I stay in touch with people and show you kind of things behind the scenes, what's going on with me. And I would love to stay in touch with you there on my free real estate investing newsletter and also the free toolkit that you get when you subscribe to that. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. My name is Chad Carson. You can also call me Coach. And this is a channel all about investing in real estate, achieving financial independence, and doing more of what matters. See you next time.